morning, Tri-Cities. It's 9 o'clock on Friday, and it's time for another Coffee with Karl. Today's guests and themes are our downtown business associations, and we'll be talking about downtown businesses, even though we realize we're all in a phase one reopening, but we wanted to highlight our downtowns. There are some great things going on down there, even in phase one, following all the safety procedures. So in no particular order, I'd like to welcome our guests this morning. On my left is Gustavo from Downtown Pasco Association. And I know I probably get your names wrong, but Gustavo, welcome. And I don't think he can hear me. So we'll go on to Mandy from City of Richland. Good morning, Mandy.
Oh, good morning. I just wanted to practice once in sign. Read my lips.
That's perfect. At first I thought I was talking to myself. So
right?
Thank you. Yeah.
I just wanted to mess with you a little bit, but glad we got rolling.
There you go. Well, it's always good to work the bugs out early.
Right.
And Stephanie Button is from the Historic Downtown Kennewick Partnership, which is a long title. And I think Stephanie just talked about that she's transitioning, but good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And yes, as soon as Mandy, I'm like, oh, mute, I got to do that too. So
You're
reminder.
Yeah.
Gustavo, I think you're muted still.
Yeah, Gustavo, can you hear us?
Are you muted?
He's working on it. I don't know, on my screen, it doesn't show that he is. Gustavo, if you can hear us, wave your hand.
Maybe he's on the phone.
Yeah, he might be. Well, he'll join in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, to kick it off, it's kind of a ritual, I guess. So we talk about coffee or coffee cups or the coffee you're drinking. So this morning, and I need to go to the office and get like some TRIDEC coffee cups or something because I'm kind of like down to the end of the coffee cups. This one I got from training session that I went to late last year at Washington Utility. That's an investor-owned utility and probably isn't thought of really highly by, maybe our local REAs and city electric associations. But anyway, I learned a lot about electricity, and like in our role in economic development and infrastructure, it really helped me to, learn about some of the important electrical infrastructures. Mandy, I know we've had a lot of discussions about electrical infrastructure. So anyway, this beautiful handmade coffee mug makes me think of that.
I thought you were going to say you handmade it, Karl.
Well, I like to relatively stick to the facts here, so that might be a little bit of a stretch, yeah.
All right.
So Mandy, you want to go next?
Sure. Mine is not as evolved of a story. I like this mug. My dad bought it for me on some trip because it reminded him of me, which I take as a compliment because in general, just makes me happy. So when I reach in there in the morning, a lot of times you need that little extra bit of happy. So that's the mug I use for that. Not that I needed extra happy today, but you said pick a good mug. So here we go.
That's perfect. That's awesome. I like that story. How about you, Stephanie? What do you got?
So I went for function over form. This is my 30-ounce Yeti because I had a farmer's market last night and I needed a little extra space for my caffeine this morning. But I am drinking the transient coffee roast that I got from the farmer's market last night.
Hey.
Cascadia blend. Something that I try to do is I try to either consume or wear something from one of my downtown businesses. So today it is transient coffee and earrings from Gathered Home.
Perfect. Wow.
Nice.
You went way beyond the coffee requirement. That's awesome.
I had to make up for the functional mug.
Functional mugs count too. That might be what I have to go to next week because I'm out of story mugs. Gustavo, how are you doing? Can you hear us? Yep. We still can't hear you though. Okay.
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Hey, perfect. Well, Gustavo, welcome this morning.
Thank you. I know we had a couple issues there with the technology, but we're doing good. So what's the question? I didn't hear anything. So what's the question? What's going on?
That's okay. Since it's Coffee with Karl, we just talk about maybe what we're drinking, even if it's not coffee or a mug or any just little story to get us kicked off this morning.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So of course I'm doing the put on the mask on a farmer's market, like the little campaign. So today my mug is actually El
Ah.
luchador.
Oh,
It is a wrestler. And this mug, I actually bought it on Cancun. I actually bought the collection. There was like 10 of them. You know, there was local people, local artists, and they were making this. So I got 10 of them. And this is my favorite one because this was my hero when I was a child. This was like James Bond for the United States. This is El Santo. So, and I don't drink coffee. So usually I get soy steamer or tea. So that's what I usually do. So that's for today.
That's Gustavo, that's awesome. And I think, and earlier, because we do call for all of our partners on Tuesdays usually, and you've shared with us before about a campaign that you had started with that style of mask that you've kind of transitioned into wear the mask or something like that. You want to just kick us off with maybe a little description about that program?
Perfect. Well, we, as you know, DPDA is a nonprofit organization, but it runs with Main Street money. It's a Main Street program. So I'm the Main Street manager for Pasco. Part of our program is the farmers market on Saturdays. So, with the COVID-19 pandemic and these guidelines that we have to wear masks, I thought, well, what can we do to tell people the story that it's important to wear the mask? Am I right? So we have the signs like everybody else. And we talk to people, we tell them the guidelines. But then I thought, well, Cinco de Mayo didn't happen. And we had a lucha libre going on for Cinco de Mayo. So now we're going to do a virtual lucha libre. And I found a guy in Mexico who does professional wrestler masks. So he created special masks for us with the luchadores in it. So this is Rayo de Jalisco. So this guy here it's actually a real luchador. This is Rayo de Jalisco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, these are handmade. So we're gonna have this special edition, and we're gonna have 3 different kinds. This Saturday we only have the limited edition and the free ones, right here. And then next week we're gonna have 3 different. That way people can have different price ranges because we cannot sell them because we're a nonprofit. But we can always take donations. So we'll have some of these. They're limited in supplies, but the idea is to create an awareness campaign that you can be a hero by wearing your mask, because you're saving other people's lives.
That's awesome. That is really cool. And another good reason to come to the farmers market downtown Pasco on Saturday, right?
Exactly. What a better excuse. He's like, go get your mask.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Let's go to Stephanie next. And Stephanie, I thought maybe we'd kick off, and that was a good segue with Gustavo, but you want to tell us what's going on downtown Kennewick? And again, we know we're in phase 1. And so especially in downtowns, many or most of our stores and retailers and restaurants, bars are closed. But do you want to highlight some of the things that are going on in downtown Kennewick and some of the stories you were sharing with us before we started about your farmers market?
Yeah, so very similar to Pasco, Kennewick is also part of the Main Street program, and we too operate a farmers market. Ours was last night. We're every Thursday from 4 to 7. We're an evening market, and very similar. We have masks, and I love Gustavo's campaign because it kind of falls with what we're doing of the idea of masks, but like make it fashion, which we love. There is a lot happening in downtown Kennewick, even though we are in phase 1. We do have some essential businesses like the Farmers Exchange and hardware stores. We also have some wonderful restaurants like Foodies and Sports Page and all of the great vendors at Red Mountain Kitchen, from Hot Mess to Catfish Alley to Tsunami Catering. We also have Layered Cake Artistry. So many great restaurants here in the downtown, and to Columbia Gardens and Clover Island, where they're able to do to-go orders. They're able to do pickup. Many traditional brick and mortar dine-in restaurants have been able to evolve their business models to meet customers where they are by providing a takeout service. We also have retail businesses that have been able to do curbside pickup and ordering online. Threads Boutique is an example of a business that does live kind of QVC shopping experiences on Facebook and Instagram on Fridays about every other week. And that's a way for you to get to know the business owners and see what they're selling and almost kind of get a curated look. Retail therapy is still a really important kind of self-care therapy. And we have so many businesses in downtown that are still able to sell and support customers, and they're doing it safely through curbside pickup or limited access. And they're all very eager and preparing for phase 2 or phase 1.5. So if businesses haven't been able to be open as they traditionally are, what they've been doing is working inside their spaces to create more flow, to create more open areas, so that when they can welcome customers in at a lower capacity, there's going to be ample room and you're going to have an excellent, more intimate experience in those stores.
That's awesome. Mandy, how about, and so you work for City of Richland in the again, I'm sorry, I'm so new. I need to do a better job of prepping and, you know, understanding everybody's titles, but I'll just say the development department, economic development, obviously, that we work with, but you guys cover a lot of different business aspects, and two business improvement districts in City of Richland would be the Uptown shopping center area and then the Parkway. And that's kind of generally like your relationship with those downtown merchants and associations? Is that kind of the way it works? And then maybe can you talk a little bit about what's going on in downtown Richland?
Yeah, absolutely. So my role has kind of evolved to become a kind of a small business liaison. So I offer resources and I also work with those business districts specifically. They each have a board of directors and they each, you know, kind of have their own way of operating and representing. And so I was able to come on and be able to represent kind of the whole downtown area collectively. And just echoing some of the other comments about the downtowns, you know, we've been able to incorporate those essential businesses like Greenies that is, you know, doing way more bike repairs and sales than I think they did even before this. And then also people like Frost Me Sweet that have been able to, you know, package goods and get them out to people, you know, whether it's pickup or delivery, and do that pivoting and be able to, you know, supply what our consumers need in the market, from retail therapy to just needing to get outside. So, you know, oftentimes you walk the Parkway, you'll see people that walk down, they grab lunch, they sit on a bench, kind of take in the area. And the Parkway offers a little bit different, kind of more traditional downtown, a little more similar to Stephanie's downtown Kennewick, where, you know, traffic can kind of flow through also. So we're excited to help support those businesses any way that we can, whether it's information or, you know, trying to help them get through these phases. A lot of them are starting to prepare for when and if we move into different phases. You know, the phase 1 is super restrictive. And so it's trying to focus that energy on what that next step will be so that when it's announced, they're ready to go. Because a lot of times we're noticing that it gets announced and then you wouldn't have time to get an order in place or get plexiglass installed in the time it would take to go live. And so if they do those activities now, it kind of helps focus that maybe frustration over being closed and maybe not as much activity from to go or pick up, to be able to get those things ready. So that's been really kind of exciting to watch. The Uptown has had a lot of exciting things go on. They have a group focused really around art. And so they do an art walk that started last year. It was quite successful, and it was the second Saturday art walk, which they're actually going to do on the 20th of this month on Zoom. And so that'll be kind of a neat interactive way for people to still get in their art itch. And so they're going to do some live videos and do some interviews of artists and talk about the businesses, kind of like they would have traditionally in walking around. There's a group that's working out of Confluent that's doing a drive-in art show, which will be kind of neat in the Uptown parking lot. So Real Deals offers VIP shopping and kind of that online QVC, walk through the store, let us know what you'd like to buy, message sold, which is kind of a neat experience. They do that on Facebook. So while the Uptown kind of has art and they're working on their mural program in this downtime, we're working on the farmers market at the Parkway and getting those things out, and consumers kind of used to who's there, making sure that they don't forget about places they might have frequented when they were out and about more. Because actually we've been fortunate and we've not lost as many businesses as you might have thought. So trying to make sure we can get them through this last little bit, not knowing exactly how long that'll be, but keep promoting them, keep calling them, keep ordering online. So I know I'm doing my part, which does not help with the COVID-19. It's been fun to try, everybody.
No, that's awesome. Well, I do want to remind folks that have tuned into our Zoom program that if you do have a question, we're using the question and answer feature at the bottom. If you click on the Q&A bubble, you can put a question in, and then we'll go through there with our panelists. And I just wanted talk about the great partnership I think that we have with each of you and your organizations and your downtowns. And at TRIDEC, we're this traditional economic development organization where we work on recruiting and business retention and expansion, and usually generally we focus on these base industries, kind of the base of the economy that feeds the rest of our economy, which a lot of times would be more of our downtown businesses, that would be restaurants and retail and stuff like that. But I just wanted to give a plug in how we work together and how we can do more things together, because really each of your downtowns are vital to our placemaking, and that's kind of something that we always know about, but like in economic development in bold letters, there's a better conversation around it today and a better understanding of that, because really so many times when we're trying to bring in a new company or help a company grow, talent is such a critical issue. And I think even as we come out of COVID, we're going to see those same things, that as people and citizens today, we all have a choice of where we live and where we might choose to work, and we want to have the best place that we can. And all of your downtowns are so critical to what it's like to live here, the cool and exciting things that we can go and look at and see, whether it's art or shopping or food or entertainment or, all of those things. Those amenities are really, really important to what we all do in economic development. So I just wanted to, point that out as like the relationship in between us, and just say, I'm new, but I think everybody's doing a good job. And our family's just excited to get to the future phases where we can, go out on a regular basis and participate more in those downtown areas. So maybe let's go into sort of a discussion of how's it going in general, even like beyond farmers market or people that are open. What are you guys seeing as far as, I think Mandy, you talked about kind of limiting the number of businesses that have had to close, but do you see any opportunities with maybe businesses that we've lost for segments, even somebody that maybe unfortunately was laid off in these times or has always had an idea for a business? Are there any opportunities that you're seeing out of, potentially closures that you've seen? And maybe this time we'll start with Stephanie, have her kick us off.
Yeah, we've seen some interesting innovation in the downtown as people have been rethinking their business models. And something that we're working on with our partners at the city of Kennewick, we're taking inspiration from Spokane and from other communities across the nation that have been working on parklets and patio little gardens or patio streeteries. We already have an amazing streetery in downtown Kennewick, adjacent to the Rockabilly Theater or Roxy Theater and Rockabilly Coffee. And that's a permanent addition to our downtown where people can sit outside and have that kind of street side cafe experience. But as we look to the requirements of the different phases, when restaurants first open, it's outdoor seating. And so how can we expand the footprints of our retail and our restaurants where they can have more space, they can kind of bring up their capacity a little bit by still being able to space out. So I know City of Kennewick is working on a model out of Spokane where it's temporary permitting for these parklets and these little patio parks and streeteries. And that'll be available all throughout the city of Kennewick, but we're definitely going to be demoing some of those temporary opportunities in our downtown. And if they're successful, maybe they can become permanent. And to Karl's point about placemaking, our downtowns are where I call it place esteem. Like you can have pride of self-esteem, but I love this idea of place esteem, proud of the place that you're from. You take ownership in it. And in our downtowns here in the Tri-Cities, that's where, we have hundreds of businesses clustered. You can do anything downtown, from, shopping to eating, visiting a museum, walking around. You only have to park once, you're in the outdoors. And you really get to see the people, the business owners, to have those engagements. It's where community is made. And we're really fortunate in the Tri-Cities that we have the downtowns that we have and that they're still here. And many of them are, hundreds of years old.
That's awesome. Let's go to Mandy next, and we'll have Gustavo back clean up for us. But Mandy, any things that you're seeing or trends, innovation or even opportunities for new businesses to start up as other businesses maybe aren't able to survive through the shutdown?
It's been actually kind of an interesting dynamic. I would have expected that a lot of businesses wouldn't be able to be as resilient as they have, and so we've seen a lot of them growing. So moving, maybe out of the Parkway, but into some larger, larger spots that are still downtown. and being able to grow their business even during this kind of time. And so now that construction is back underway, some of those tenant improvements on buildings are continuing to pick up, and we'll get those businesses shuffling around, which will then of course create vacancies in addition to a couple of businesses that we had closed. One of which I know has already been filled with a new business. And so that was really encouraging to see that it's not entirely an economic problem. There's a lot of businesses suffering, so I don't want to take away from that. And there's a lot of them that are struggling to make those ends meet each month and relying on some of these funds that I know TRIDEC has done a really good job of trying to get out. And, you know, the cities and the state have, you know, been trying to offer these programs for kind of almost a gap financing to just get them there. And so I think that that's been important to watch and make sure that we can support any way we can in just promoting some of those resources available to get them over that last little bit, because they are holding on. I think, you know, some of their spirits are wavering in some cases, right? They're doing the best they can, but yeah, pivoting their business, trying to figure out, you know, what new product, what new vendor, what, you know, new technique. A lot of them taken to online. So that's been really good to see. But as far as closures, you know, we really have been fortunate enough to say that there have not been that many closures that I'm aware of, unless they just come out in the reopening process. And so, you know, they may just not reopen and we don't quite know yet. But I've only seen 2 physically move out of their location so far. And so while 2 is too many, we're glad that it's not more.
That's great. Gustavo, how about downtown Pasco? Are you seeing these opportunities, or you know, even through this really hard time and, you know, very hard to work through for many businesses, but then any opportunities coming out of it that you see?
You know, the thing that is very interesting at the beginning of all of these few months ago, I was very concerned, and I'm saying, you know, I'm saying this with a heavy heart, because I saw we lost at least 3 or 4 businesses right away, you know, the second month, and then we lost another 3, so we lost 7 businesses. However, these people, well, I'll give you one example specifically, is Angel Salon. It's like just around the corner right here in Lewis. He was there over 30 years. You know, Carlos was one of the main people who helped us out in Cinco de Mayo for years and years. So anyway, over 30 years, and they had to shut down. Now, I mean, that's one example. Am I right? We had La Chica Dorada. We have other boutiques and they closed down. This one was a barber shop. But the thing that is very interesting is like the way it's transforming. It's because the large number here are minorities. You know, I will say 98% of the business, I have my list over here, they're actually owned by immigrants or Latino people from the Latino community. So this is where it gets really cool, okay? A lot of us come from little towns or villages that they actually do a lot of community involvement because we're so poor. So we do a lot of things from scratch. We get together and celebrate and do things in a way. We don't have that personal space that a lot of, you know, most of the United States has. So, you know, personal space is very important here. So what I'm trying to say is, like, we already had the streetscape or the landscape, or, you know, these improvements that we're gonna start doing, we already had them. Like when you go to Mexico, South America, even Europe, they already have these parklets, these public spaces, and they're actually they're private, you know, public spaces for everyone. The streets are different. It's more about enjoying the scenery and enjoying being with others, you know. So we already had those in our towns. So I'm seeing this as an opportunity for you know, for the entrepreneurs that we have. And I can tell you, like, there's businesses and they're doing really well. You know, depends on the model they had before. They actually improve, like Brothers Cheesesteaks. You know, they're actually doing really good. Tina's right here next to us. Tina's Tasty Treats, they're really phenomenal. Now, the other one is Carla Snacks. You know, he already had a really good model in his business. He just added like a hand station, you know, hand washing station. And then he added basically the coverings, which is, I don't know how they call them. I forgot right now. But anyway, the clear coverings that they were asking from the health department. And of course, he always wears, you know, his gloves and stuff. And then he all his products, everything that he sells is on pictures. So you don't have to touch anything. You don't have to taste anything. He does, you know, so you're looking at it and then you just choose what you want. So anyway, I think that's the transformation. It's coming, and I think that's all. It's gonna be interesting to see. But I'm excited because it's gonna bring us to a place where we already been as immigrants, you know, in communities, and they actually already have these spaces where people can actually, it's communal spaces, you know, it's more about landmarks and community spaces. So that's what I'm excited about. So we'll see the transformation, how it will come. And I'm part, you know, I'm glad to be part of it. The farmers market, you'll see some of those transformations in the next few months, because we're gonna try to bring, you know, some events that they will comply with the social distancing.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's a great analogy where, just like you said, the place that a lot of your businesses are from, they already know this model, right? The outdoor seating, the very, and I mean, when you said that, I just thought of a picture from, you know, many other like cities in different countries. And we have that picture, right, of that, just a beautiful downtown area with nice big trees and that. And I guess now if we just picture that scene with more social distancing and a mask on, then maybe that's kind of where we'll be in some of these other phases potentially. Yeah, we've got some questions coming in, and some of them are specific for a specific downtown. So we'll start off with one of them for Stephanie, and that is with the parking situation that this question is describing as limited already. How do you plan to integrate, you know, more of these parklets or the outdoor seating and balance that out with the parking? And maybe can you talk a little bit about that, Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, parking is always a challenge in any kind of finite designed space where you want to have growth, but you also need to accommodate people coming in, and we're sensitive to that. That was a little bit of a battle when we had our initial streetery installed. But what we have found is with businesses coming in like Foodies is that people will park and they'll walk. You know, the time when we could drive from business to business, from block to block, isn't really sustainable. And we have wonderful side streets with businesses and parking. We have little parking lots, you know, across from our architecture. We have back parking behind Washington Hardware. We've got, we're next to a park. You know, Keewaydin Park has a lot of parking, and there's a very pleasant little pathway over the canal. So as we think about these parklets, it's not so much we're going to take over all the parking. There will still be plenty of parking for people to come down, but we do have large areas of sidewalk. We have a plaza downtown that functions as a parking lot, but could also function as a gathering place. So it's not like all the parking is going to be gone, and it's not going to be every single block, but there are places where we can negotiate the needs of people and pedestrians and the needs of people who drive. And also remembering that in our Tri-Cities community, there's more than one way to travel around the Tri-Cities. We have a fantastic transit system that just added its connector service, which is kind of like an on-demand Uber, but for Benton and Franklin transit. We have people who walk. We have a growing bike culture. Last year, City of Kennewick added more bike lanes. I know in Richland, they've been adding more bike lanes. We have to think of ourselves as an evolving multimodal metropolitan Tri-Cities, which might be weird for people to hear us say it, but we're a growing community. We're a growing diverse community. And we have to think about more than just people who drive in cars. We have to think about people who use other modes of transportation. And that's going to be a healthier mix for our entire community, let alone little downtown Kennewick.
That's good. And I think those are great points that you bring up. And I think as a community, of course, like much of our history, we'll work through those things, because a lot of times you see kind of a demographic shift, and you know, those are hard to balance. But I think the reality of it is, and I know from employers that we talk to all the time, especially with their younger demographic, you know, of their workforce, a lot of times they will stay for a couple of years, and then they'll end up, you know, going to the west side. And, you know, in the exit interview, a lot of times the question is like, well, why are you leaving? And they say, well, there's nothing here to do. And when you break that down and interpret it, it's not just like amenities or you know, a social network or social scene or something. A lot of times it's the things that you're talking about, you know, being able to bike to someplace and go to a farmer's market and get some food and go home and cook it, you know, with friends. And so that dynamic is one that is a transition. And I'll just say, in different areas that I've lived in and working with, you know, your peers in downtown associations, it's always an issue, you know, and with the downtown, whether you try to do revitalization or whatever, you know, you're kind of always up against that perception of there's no parking, and, you know, and when you bring things up, it's all about perception, because it's really tough to convince some people that where they're used to shopping, say in a larger box store setting or like in a mall or something, you know, that they're walking there as well. It's really tough to make that transition, but I think for our community, it's really important to have that balance, you know, because just like we talked about, giving everybody that lives here the best quality of life and the best access to amenities, which downtowns are a huge part of, is really critical to what we're talking about. How about Gustavo? Is that when you talk about parklets, and maybe just piggybacking on Stephanie's question, but you know, balancing parking and that atmosphere, you guys looked at that, or you seen that come up, or any questions about that?
Well, you know, something that I've seen, and once again, we're a nonprofit, you know, and I just want to make clear, because we run with CDBG block grant when it comes to the kitchen, and then we run with Main Street dollars when it comes to the downtown area and the committees. But we're very close. We work with the city, of course, in a lot of things, and they created us as a public entity, am I right? As a DPA. So that makes us a little bit closer to them. So I try to watch and sometimes go to some of the city council meetings. And I can tell you, for what I heard, you know, because well, what I heard is that most of them, for what I heard, they really want to put money back into the downtown area. Some of the money that actually came from the federal help for the COVID-19, and there's more money from the state that came to the city. So what I'm trying to say is they already had the idea of moving some of these. So we have people at the city, like everyone else, probably planners, you know, and they already have the knowledge, you know, and the experience. And I can tell you, for what I've done before in other cities, you know, obviously I wasn't a planner, but I was a community relations manager, for example, in Woodburn, and I worked with other people who were working with planning in planning department. Really, when we talk about parking, it's really you have to look when it snows. That's the way they do it. That's the way I learned the planners do it. They wait until the snow season, and then you can really track which cars are going where. And if you realize when it snows, you see a bunch of snow, am I right? So that means a lot of that space is not being utilized. That's what it means. Yeah. But a lot of people don't understand that what happened is we don't want to walk. I mean, most of us don't want to walk, and we park as close as possible. That's why we never have parking. But you can totally use, I mean, there was an example in New York City. They have that huge street, and there was like 7 or 8 streets, and nobody can even, I mean, of course you can walk, but there was so much traffic, and then they close it down and they make it for everyone to enjoy. Am I right? And it's still, I believe, still shut down, and everybody uses it more as a communal space, and nothing happened, you know. But of course, people think you just have to find different routes or reroute or change some of the stuff in the streets where you can do it one way instead of having 2 ways. And I can tell you, these downtowns, we're lucky because we have a lot of space. We just haven't really utilized it, you know, so they just have to change some city code. And I think that's the hardest part, you know, because it's not easy to change the code. So they had to change the codes. They had to change some of the, you know, how much of the sidewalk you can use, because of course, everything is liability, am I right? What kind of, you know, sandwich boards, or what kind of, you know, like we call it anuncios in Espanol, and, you know, basically advertisement you can use, you know, so people won't trip, and what kind of things can you put outside, and they're not gonna blow and hit somebody. So things like that is what probably city is gonna be concerned about. But you know, I've seen some changes, and you can always do it. You can always try it for like a week or 2, and you know, you can do a temporary parklets and things like that, or you can do small events and temporary parklets. And then, well, of course, you have to ask the city permission to do that. But then once they see where might work best, I think that's the best way to do it. I can tell you that if we just close one street, you know, once a week or twice a week, and we are allowed to do sidewalk sales, I mean, and then this is the coolest thing. We have to understand that we go places, you know, and of course my background is marketing, but we go places because of the experience. That's what we take. Even since that's how we learn, through experience. So if you bring something, or you allow something to happen in a place and people enjoy it and have that great experience, they'll come back. But of course, if you don't, then it's not going to happen, you know? So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what I believe. So I think this will give us an opportunity to be creative and have those experiences for everybody to enjoy. And someone said it earlier, Stephanie, the feel of belonging. You know, you experience that, you enjoy it, and then you're like, I belong here. So then you come again. That's totally. That's my, you know, to the same place where you enjoy it. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Mandy, even from the city perspective, I'm sure you guys have this discussion too, you know, kind of that balance in between parking and access, and then, you know, moving into it more. And I think, again, being the new guy, but I think just looking at some of the areas like the Parkway, it seems like City of Richland's really been focusing on creating more of those spaces. Do you have anything to add to this part of the discussion or thoughts?
We're looking at a couple of different things that we can do. We've tried to relax some of the like expediting sidewalk use permits and things that we've had in place, just to try to bridge that gap until we can maybe get some new solutions for this COVID response, whether it's we're looking at some of those streetery type options, some temporary use type things, and how we can best implement those in a quick manner, knowing that, you know, it could be 9 weeks, it could be a month, it could be at the end of the year, not really knowing what that looks like and how we can be nimble to meet that. And it's a little different for us because as a city, we own the street and the sidewalks that are around the Parkway and the Uptown. And so it really is a permission and a liability type of a thing that we're working with to be able to keep it fair, and the perception of not enough parking. And, you know, for us, one of the big struggles is getting the employees to park somewhere else, which magically creates a lot more parking for consumers. And so, you know, trying to kind of bridge that understanding and get those things. Now at the Uptown, parking is not a problem, but, you know, Stephanie, it's one of those things that we battle all the time. And unfortunately, it is an evolution in culture, which is a little more painful and a little harder than you would think. It's a little uncomfortable, but it always turns out great. And so that's kind of what we're working with our merchants and consumers. I think Tri-Cities is unique. You know, we still want big, huge garages and large trucks, and we still have a lot of ag. And so I don't know that we're ever going to be in little teeny tiny cars that are super economical to fit into little tiny compact spaces, but, you know, accommodating everybody that lives here and still creating that place that people want to go is still, you know, at the forefront of Richland, and it definitely is our driving factor, and making sure that we can not necessarily make everybody happy, but do the best we can to get as close as we can.
Oh, that's great. So a couple of comments or ideas that came in from Facebook. One that I have to share is there was a comment that Gustavo's hat game is on point. So Gustavo, I think the listeners really like your hat. Good job. The other one is maybe we can move our conversation into supporting businesses through reopening. And you know, like I said, we have these Tuesday calls that I think are great. It's a great way for all of us to share information and have this really similar conversation. And we've talked a lot about what can each of we do to even support safe behaviors. We talked about masks a little bit, and then I know we've all been involved with an effort called tcopenandsafe.com. And so what we're trying to do is for businesses as they look forward to reopening. And I know like there are some other examples. I know Stephanie, you stood up some really great you know, ideas from other communities, but trying to provide businesses a way to plan for reopening, to understand the regulations and what they're going to need to have to reopening. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on in each of our communities regarding reopening and looking forward to it, and even, you know, doing it in this safe fashion, because obviously we all need to do our part to bring our numbers down. That's going to be one of the keys to actually getting to a phase 2 or a phase 1.5. So maybe, and I'm trying to remember who went first last time. So we'll start with Mandy, if you want to talk about that, like just ideas or, you know, efforts going to help businesses prepare for reopening and doing it, of course, in that safe manner.
I think one of the places that the city has been trying to fill in and do our best to get the information out is, you know, from day one, we stood up a page that was, you know, COVID business response, and basically trying to be that clearinghouse, because I have the bandwidth to sit and the opportunity to sit on some of these calls like we have on Tuesday, where so much information comes through and is great, but how do we get it out to those businesses? And so then we're focused on just promoting that page. And so I'm updating it daily with really good quality information that is not a slide on Facebook, but not from Facebook. And, you know, getting everybody that this is the information to follow. This is the directive. This is, you know, an easy way to understand it. This is how you calculate your occupancy. I mean, simple, basic things that these businesses need to reopen. You know, telling them that they have 30% occupancy when they don't necessarily have it posted on the wall is almost not helpful. because, you know, what does that mean to me? And how do I arrange stuff? And so it's been trying to find training classes that are free opportunities that these people can, you know, take advantage of. And what other, you know, there's a Washington Retail Association has some fantastic information and trainings that are free, that I have been able to send out and post on that website for people. Retail Doctor is another kind of a branded advice coach for retail. And the idea is just, let's try to, you know, be patient and take this time to move into that next phase and what it means for you in a constructive way, and maybe open a stronger business than you had when you closed, you know, and how can we help you do that? And so I'm always trying to be nimble. If there's something that they need, we too have calls in some of these districts, or one-on-one, I'm open to those calls. So what can I do to help or coach or go find the info? I know I bring you guys a lot of questions on Tuesdays, like, hey, I got this problem. What do you guys think? Or what do you see, Stephanie? And so that's been really, really helpful, I think, and I'm getting good feedback from that. But yeah, anything that consumers or retailers think that they need, and we're happy to try to fill that gap, in addition to policies and things that we're trying to adjust in the behind the scenes.
You bet. Stephanie, how about downtown Kennewick? Can you talk a little bit about, you know, how your organization and how all the businesses are working together to come up with a safe reopening plan and make sure we meet the guidelines and the regulations?
Yeah, it's very similar to Richland. It's that three-pronged approach. We're encouraging all of our businesses to take the Tri-Cities Open and Safe Pledge. We've provided templates for businesses to plan for reopening, so where they can find their occupancy through City of Kennewick resources, materials that they need to find, PPE or covers or shields. We also have a standing weekly Zoom downtown hangout that's open to downtown businesses where they can pop in and we chat, we ask questions. I find answers, and we also have a Facebook group that's closed to downtown businesses and merchants, and that's where we're sharing free downloadables, articles, access to more training and information, and getting our businesses as much information as possible. We're also thinking about the streetscape, so small things that we can begin to start doing, like spray painting dots 6 feet apart all up and down our downtown sidewalks as an additional visual reminder for social distancing. It's not just about getting the information and preparing our merchants, but we also feel like in downtown we have an opportunity to model the behavior to build customer and consumer confidence as they come back to downtown. So our job is as much about preparing our businesses for future phases and reopening. It's also about inviting our community to rediscover downtown Kennewick and to not forget those small businesses, those locally owned shops. I think people forget because it's, you know, out of sight, out of mind, just how many opportunities our downtown community has. We have well over 100 businesses. You can go to a restaurant, you can wash your dog, you can buy a new outfit, you can get your hair cut, you can start your next DIY project. All of that can happen in our downtown. So, and our businesses are you know, doing everything they can to prepare, from rearranging their spaces to making capital improvements in their spaces, thinking about their bathrooms and their accessibility. So there's a lot that we're doing, and how HDKP is supporting our businesses is by listening, providing resources, and also just kind of being that shoulder to lean on when needed.
That's awesome. Gustavo, can you highlight some of the things that you got going on downtown Pasco and kind of along a similar line? What's going on?
Yeah, I you know, it kind of resonates a little bit with what Stephanie was saying. You know, when it gets really different, it's cultural. Am I right? Because you know, most of the people in downtown actually speak Spanish, so they come up here. We talk about different things, you know. So to a point, we're listeners and see what's going on, and we listen to their worries, their concerns, you know, and what's going on with COVID-19. So I kind of follow Stephanie's steps, and we created we meet every Friday, you know, but culturally they're not used to doing Zoom, so sometimes they just show up here. So a lot of times I just have 6-7 people here, so we have to go to the back and have the social distancing, make sure they have their mask. But I've done a couple Zoom meetings, and I think they're gonna grow as soon as they know how it works. You know, last time I only had 5 people in the Zoom meeting, and after the meeting, 6 people showed up. So, but anyway, one of the things that it's interesting for us, and I said for us, I don't mean that, I mean, it's for downtown, am I right? And I mean for us because of cultural, it's cultural specific. I believe that a lot of them are suffering, but their suffering is different than other people because even to get loans and do some of the stuff, some of these people are mixed family. That's what I said before, mixed. Well, you know, when it comes to immigration issues, you call it like mixed family, which means one is a citizen, one is a resident, one might not be, one might be like in limbo. You know, some people call it undocumented, but not everybody's undocumented. It's just they cannot get out of the country because they're in the process to get, you know, their resident card or whatever. So, so what I'm trying to say is a lot of these people own business, they run business for years and years, and they don't have access to some capital, you know, or loans or credit or whatever. And so those are the issues. And they're not telling me. I'm just guessing that's the issue because they, you know, they come and talk to me about different things, and then I realize that they don't have the same access, or they don't know the system, or the English is very limited. So I'm glad that we actually have a couple people here. My team is really good, am I right? But we do technical assistance when it comes to open a business because we have the kitchen. So we help people to open their own business, you know, go to the state. I even, because I don't do it myself, but I think it's the state that helps them out. I totally forgot the name of the page, but anyway, Jessica is the person who helps them out. And then once they have their business, they can either sign up with us or they can just work anywhere else. Am I right? So what I'm trying to say is, as long as they keep coming to us and we can get that technical assistance to them, then we'll be okay. And so far so good. It's just that trust is still, and that's what I talked about this before. DPDA has been here for a long time, but this is the first time that they have an executive director, and actually it's culturally aware of what's going on, and also the language. You know, they had bilingual people before, but this is the first time that I was a business owner before, and I struggle in my own country, you know, so I came up here for more opportunities. So my story is a lot like their story. Their stories are like my story. So when I hear them, it's like we can come out with ideas where they can actually improve their businesses, but we still have to build that trust. And I'm glad most of them actually come here and talk to me, and we plan different things, and we give them information about different resources, and they're taking advantage of those. You know, we actually connected with Craft 3. I don't know who helped me. Somebody else helped me before for some of those loans, and then some people even reach out to OAMI in Portland because they have a really well structured to help minorities. And, you know, we do the best we can so far. And then some of the loans that they're coming from the city, we're going to be hopefully helping them out. So everything's going pretty good. So like I said, it's very slow though. It's not that easy because we have over 40 businesses, but right now I'm in contact with like 35, but the people who comes is usually between 6 and 7. But the coolest thing is they talk to each other. So if you help one of them, it's word of mouth. Like one of them is doing good, then they'll tell everybody. Now one of them is not good, doing good, they also talk to everybody.
That's right. That's a great point. We do have a specific question for Stephanie, and then maybe we'll get into a general question about phase 4, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. We're down to about 11 minutes. So this question for Stephanie is, what's the plan for Kennewick to promote, give some support, and maybe curb appeal to the Vista Way business area now that Day Springs has moved from the area? So
yeah,
again, so, I'm new. I'm not familiar with where Vista Way is, but I'm sure you know what it is.
That's a really good question. So the Historic Downtown Kennewick Partnership, we are an economic development nonprofit that is separate from the city of Kennewick. Very similar to the DPA, we are our own organization, and we're actually a Main Street organization. And I'm happy to provide a TED Talk about what Main Street is. If anyone would like to follow up with a phone call or would like to come visit me downtown.
It's a lot.
Yes, there's a whole handbook. So we are actually geographically bound by our sphere of influence. So for us, downtown means bridge to bridge and from the waterfront to 10th. And our area of recording is actually the historic core of downtown. And so we work with the city, we work with the Port of Kennewick and with Clover Island and Vista Way. So we have a very targeted approach. Kennewick is huge. Like spatially, it's huge and spread out. And so how we're able to be advocates and partners with our city and county and port collaborators is that we get to specialize and be subject matter experts in the downtown. Of course, we are very excited for the Vista project, about what that means for all of Kennewick. We're very excited about the cultural and art and entrepreneurial opportunities that it brings, but we're all about the revitalization and the growth of our downtown community. And we can be partners. We can be a community of different districts and zones that complement one another. So I don't really have anything to do with, from an economic development perspective, of the Vista project, other than just being really excited for it.
That's awesome and a great answer. And I think that probably is similar to City of Richland, right? With the Uptown and the Parkway areas, kind of that's similar. They're close, but they're a ways apart, and maybe similar things going on in Kennewick, it sounds like. So that's exciting. So this is our last question for everybody. This one is about specifically phase 4 businesses that might be in your downtowns, things like art studios, dance studios, karate, yoga, even fitness centers or something. The comment is they're so important for our community and kids, but have you had that discussion on some of those businesses that might be in your areas, and realizing they're going to be a bit further out, and because of the safety concerns, they're going to be the last ones to open? But can each of you talk a little bit about phase 4? And this time, I think we're going to start with Gustavo. I think you're up.
Thank you. Well, we have a couple places, and they do, dance, and there's different type of dances. One of them is a Brazilian dance. It's like a martial art, but it's also a dance. And then we have another one. It's more like cultural specific with folkloric dances. And then we have, of course, just around the corner, we have the martial arts studio. And we spoke to them a little bit. I mean, I talked to them a little bit, but the one I think I've seen more often is I believe it's a sensei. I'm not 100% sure. I know they have different denominations, but basically the master of that dojo. And he had these, well, they had events for this summer, and they're not going to happen. So, we have nothing. Like we don't know. That's the honest. Like we have nothing. We spoke a little bit, but he's concerned, but we have nothing. We don't know how they're gonna operate. So I will go ask them, because I don't have an answer. We spoke before about how we were hoping things will move faster. That was like a month and a half ago. But because of everything that's happened, I had lost contact with them. I mean, I see them sometimes, but they have no. I will reach out to them, and then next time we talk, I will keep you posted on what's going on.
That's great. Thank you. And
thank you.
Mandy, any discussion about those phase 4, more of the businesses is just the nature of their business, that, people are a little bit closer contact, and that, any discussions in Richland?
Yeah. And I mean, having tried to connect with a lot of those groups, it's what they can do to change their business to be able to do things now. And so a lot of them have taken online classes, and being able to offer, like through Zoom, they're teaching some of their classes, and as far as dance goes. And even I've seen some vocal coaches that are doing some of that activity. So there are still things happening. I mentioned, the creative district is still kind of moving through their process, kind of using this quiet time to get that up and going to support these businesses during that time. But then Uptown is working on their murals. That's still social distancing, a guy painting on a building. And so working on some of those activities that can still happen, like an outdoor drive-in art show, so I think art is still very alive in our community. It's still very important to our community, and it adds a lot to our culture. So it is unfortunate that they're still part of phase 4. I think government is phase 3. So, we're also in a similar boat, but there's a lot of things that I think we're finding as the days go on that we can do within the confines, wearing our masks, doing the social distancing, and all the things that are important to try to help support those businesses, even at a distance. They're working on, I know the Art Center Task Force put up a new website. So they're all still trying to support their member businesses as well, to try to get them through some of those harder times. The nice part is that a lot of them don't have brick and mortar places. So those ones I think are a little bit more nimble. And so being able to focus on more of the brick and mortar type creatives that we can help the best we can. And again, always open for them to reach out and try to troubleshoot some of those questions. I can take them to our Tuesday group, or anywhere else. I'm happy to chase down some of those answers if we can be productive and helpful.
That sounds great. And Stephanie, any discussion about your phase 4 businesses, or, getting ready for that phase, or even modifying how they operate to try to, offer some services even sooner under the regulations?
Yeah, we've got Galloway Gym here in downtown, and it's been frustrating that they've had to close. I'm not sure if he or any of his trainers have been able to do online workouts, but I know that there have been gyms and studios that have been able to do online classes, or they've at least been able to help maintain that kind of maybe nutrition training support. We have the Boys and Girls Club, their music and art and culture studio downtown, and whenever they do something live, we've been sharing it on our social channels to try to amplify that messaging. Downtown phase 4 is where, we can have live music and themed events at our farmers market. We had to cancel Classy Chassis, which is one of our biggest events in the downtown. It's great for business, and it's one of our major fundraisers. And so not only did we miss out on that income, our businesses missed out on that income. And it's that kind of chicken egg situation of, when do you start planning these large events? So we're thinking about what does that mean, coming up fourth quarter is the holiday season. We have a Christmas parade in the downtown. So what does that mean? So we're thinking of strategies where we can change or modify or get creative and MacGyver how community gathering and events, especially cultural events, can happen in a safe, socially distanced way. And we've got some really good ideas. A business owner who participates in some of the My Try 2030, Brandon Anderson, who does Bonsai Audio and Kind of Spicy. I know he started a Facebook group about, what does events mean? How do we change events from weddings to large cultural gatherings? And he's got some really great ideas. In fact, he was able to transmit over a radio frequency here in downtown for a couple of days, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. And so ways of kind of social distancing events where people can still have that connectivity, but different. So those of us in these fields, we're thinking about it. Like, I know it's only June, but I'm thinking about Christmas and what we can do to have a great 2020 holiday season.
Oh, that's great. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap up. I did want to give a plug for a couple of websites we've talked about already, but the tcopenandsafe.com is something that we're all working on with our coalition, trying to build that one-stop shop for small business owners, that they can connect into the health district website and quickly and easily understand planning resources and what it's going to take to get reopened. And then Association of Western Businesses has a great site for either PPE, kind of a marketplace, and then more resources, and that's reboundandrecovery.org. Tracy put each one of your websites up there. I know you each have great resources for small business, so that's up in the chat if anybody wants to take a look at it. Well, let's go back around the room, and if everybody just wants to make a closing statement. I really, really appreciate you guys' time. This has been a great discussion, not only talking about our collective COVID responses, but then talk about, as we come out of COVID, the great things that are going on downtown and how that really is an important part of our community. So I am trying to move it around, and I think, Mandy, you're up to go first this time.
Well, all righty. I guess I want to thank everybody for, tuning in and for asking really compelling questions, and, letting us keep top of mind what's important to our consumers, what's important to our small businesses. And I think I can't emphasize enough, wear your mask, follow the rules, believe it or not, it will help. Also support your small businesses, go out in any way that's appropriate for you to, whether it's just stop in and say hi and tell them that you're thinking of them, or, place an order online if you have the time, set up a date night. Everybody probably needs a little time out of the house. And I think that that's going to make our community stronger. We're really uniting, even though we're separate. And so that's happening underlying. And so it's been actually a little more inspirational than I would have expected. And just remember that we are here for everybody. So if we can help offer resources, let us know where the gaps are, and we're happy to jump in. I know Karl's group has been great with that. The chamber has been great with that. So there's lots of resources available.
Thanks, Mandy. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah.
Let's go to Stephanie next.
Very similar. We are excited to welcome folks downtown. We encourage everyone to wear their masks and follow the rules. And we're excited to welcome people downtown. There are ways for you to shop and enjoy downtown now. It's great for walking, especially in the evenings. It's beautiful sights to see. You can get, if you miss walking around the mall, if you were a mall walker, I invite you to come walk downtown, the blocks of downtown Kennewick. And we have, over 100 diverse businesses that are all locally owned and operated. And right now, they need our support, they need our help, they need our consumer dollars and our positive thoughts and action. And here at HDKP, we're here to provide resources, we're here to help get people downtown, and really we're facilitators between our building owners and our business occupiers, between our customers and our businesses and the residents. We're a whole community here in downtown Kennewick. We're a great place to live, work, and play. And if you're thinking about a drive or trying a new restaurant or picking up something new for your home or your house or your pet, you know, come downtown. We have eager businesses excited to welcome you. And downtown's a great place to even think about investing. We've got some vacancies coming up and that are currently vacant. So downtown's a great place to be.
Thanks, Stephanie. That was a great recap, and we appreciate everybody's time. So Gustavo.
Okay,
so some closing remarks.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Gracias a todos por ver este programa. Thanks for watching. One of the main things, of course, you know, come and support downtown Pasco businesses. But think about this: downtown Pasco businesses are culture specific. So you'll have, you know, like La Habana Cafe. So you have a very nice Cuban sandwich. You have beanies, and they have really good pastry. You have Vieras over here. So, and then we have Carla Snacks, and then we have Hochos Tacos, you know, so, and even the furniture stores, you know, when you can still order online or you can call them on the phone. They specific furniture that is made by pine, different types of wood, and they're all imported from Mexico. So our job is to promote them and make sure that people come and shops and have that experience that you won't get in the other two towns, even though I love the other two towns. But also the thing that you have to remember, we're still a nonprofit, and you know, even though we get grants, the grants are only to do things. They're not for the core, which is the operation piece. In order to operate, we always jump in hoops. I mean, I love the job, I love what we do, but remember, if anybody wants to donate, go to a page, you know, and it doesn't have to be money either. It could be stuff, and then we can just, you know, sell it or do something. So if you have a surplus of anything, you can donate it to us. We make a space, then we can get money out of it. If you want to do a donation, you know, it's as far as I know, it's tax deductible. So anyway, so DPDA, thank you.
That's a lot. Well, thanks everybody today. I just want to remind everybody that TRIDEC is the organization that I'm representing here today, and TRIDEC is our local economic development agency, and we're really focused on growth and expansion. But TRIDEC since 1963 has also been focused on our community, and the partnerships that we have with each of your organizations and government entities is really the basis of what we're about and what we try to represent to work on that united front. I just want to thank each of you for your partnership. We really appreciate your support and this dialogue that we have. So thanks for your time again. Everybody stay safe, wear a mask, practice social distancing. Let's make sure we wash our hands so that we can come out of this even faster. So thanks everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Hasta luego.